Hi, John with eTrailer. If you're looking for a product to make your driving experience just a little bit nicer this summer before you hit the road, then check out the Roadmaster Exact Center Steering Stabilizer that we installed on our 2019 Fleetwood Bounder. So this is what the steering stabilizer is going to look like when it's installed on the front of your RV. It has two attachment points, one on the tie rod side of things over here, and then the other attaches to the bottom side of your U-bolts for your front springs. You can think of this like a big gas-charged shock absorber, except it works both ways. So if it feels input, when you're going down the road, and if it feels input from the right, it's going to kick it back to the left. Same deal with the left going over to the right. This thing is adjustable, and installs relatively quick, and it's just going to help improve your driving experience going down the road, so you're not fighting, say, crosswinds or maybe unevenness in the road. Now, this is a product that I actually don't mind reviewing because I could feel the results after I installed it almost immediately. One of the biggest things that this helps, say, is when you're flat towing. You can see the front axle is all the way up here. You have so much tail swing back here, and with the weight of whatever vehicle you're towing, you end up starting to get a fishtail thing. Well, you're fighting that up at the steering wheel, turning left and right. This steering stabilizer wants to keep everything in the dead center for you. Like I said, just driving around the parking lot, I could feel it when I let go of the wheel would want to snap back into position. So this is a neat product that actually works, and it's infinitely adjustable. If you are out on the highway and you hit a pothole or something and you end up needing an alignment on your rig, this is something that's not going to be ruined by that. You have adjustments underneath. Once the shop aligns it, they can either align it for you, or even you can get underneath and have it set right back up. Now, as far as installation goes, honestly, this is going to be your biggest hurdle here. These are 1 1/8" nuts that attach the U-bolts and your springs together on the front axle. So these are pretty tough to get off, and they have a high torque rating. So when you go to put them back, you need a pretty big torque wrench. Other than that, this bracket, everything's included with this kit. You don't need to add anything. Like I said, it bolts up here and it bolts up on your tie rod on the other side. Bolts up, you have plenty of adjustment left and right if you need to do that. It's best if you have an alignment done first before you do this, of course. So if you think you're interested in this and you want to see how we installed it, stick around. Before we begin our installation, what we'd like to do is find the actual center on our steering wheel. In all truth here, folks, it would be best if you had an alignment done on your RV before you install this part, because unless you enjoy going down the road with a crooked steering wheel, it's what it's going to do. This product is designed to kind of keep your rig straight and keep the wheel straight for you. It's gas charged on either side, so it doesn't want this wheel to be going left or right. And so however you set it, it's going to keep that center line. This one is fairly new, so and it's steered straight, but what we've done is we've taken 2 layers of painter tape on the dash and on the steering wheel here. And what I'm going to do to try to find the center, this is kind of an old alignment trick. I'll draw a line on the dash here, and then as I'm going in a straight line down the road, however the RV is going to drive straight, I'll make another line, and so that they line up together. We'll show you as I do this. This way, when I go back and before I either put the part on or do any part of the installation, I could park this and put the wheel and line the marks up and know that not only is the steering wheel straight and centered, but so is all of the components underneath that we're going to be hooking up to. So I've just got a Sharpie and some painter's tape. The Sharpie is why I put 2 layers on, just in case. We don't want any bleed through caused by the marker on either of these surfaces here. So I've just made a mark on the dash first, and we're going to get up to a little bit of speed, at least enough to know if we're going straight or not. I'm going to draw a point right now. We're going to have to turn around. We don't have a whole lot of space here. This is best done in a parking lot too, or you could do it on the highway, just some of the highways and the roads will have a bank to them, and so you may be leaning one way or another down the road, which will affect how you have to steer. So we're pretty close. So I'm going to say right here, you can see the two lines are meeting up and we're headed straight. So that's where I'm going to park. When I park, this is where I'm going to put the wheel so that these two spots line up. That way we can install the part. Now, if it's not perfect, if you get it back out on the road and it is tugging left or right, it's not the end of the world. You just got to loosen up some brackets underneath and then reposition it. But this is most of the fight right here is finding your true center point. So we'll get this back to the shop and start our installation. Now, to begin our installation, we've got our RV in the air. This is not required for you to do this at home, though. You can do this with your RV sitting on the ground. It just makes it easier for us to show you what we're going to be doing and how to install this. Probably the hardest part of this job, we're going to be loosening the U-bolts on our front springs. You're going to need an 1 1/8" socket and either a really big pry bar or a pretty good size air tool like this one here. So that's where we're going to start on the passenger side. The rear bolts, we're going to be mounting our bracket. The instructions aren't perfectly clear as to how this is supposed to go up. They say the notch facing outboard. We'll put this up, replace the washer and the nut. We're going to zip these down, and then you want to torque these to the specs on your motorhome. Honestly, you're going to need a pretty big torque wrench, but you could probably rent that at a local auto parts store. When you run these up, make sure your U-bolt is centered and you don't do one side more than the other. You want to try to keep these about the same. Now, once the axle bracket is torqued, we're going to take the tie rod bracket here. You're going to have the tie rod bracket. You're going to have 2 U-bolts with washers attached to them. We're going to take our bracket. This hole right here is going to go towards the front axle here. So we're going to place it like this underneath. And then take the U-bolts, drop them down. Then we'll take a flat washer. And then the nylock nut. And just leave these loose for right now because we are going to be adjusting the rod as soon as we get it up here. And we're going to have to locate this left and right on this tie rod end as we find the center. We're going to have the rest of the hardware with the kit. It's going to be the 3-inch bolts, flat washers, and nylock nuts here. We'll take one of the bolts and we'll run it up through the frame that's installed on our front axle here. Just the bolt by itself first. You can take a flat washer and you place it on top of the stabilizer itself. And then you'll put another flat washer and then finally the nylock nut here. So these washers are going to sandwich the stabilizer itself. And it's going to be the same idea for the tie rod side. Just slide this down. So we'll run the bolt through the bottom of this bracket, flat washer, sandwich the stabilizer here with the flat washers. Before you could begin to tighten anything down, this is what it should look like. So we're going to roll this up. So the stabilizer is going to sit on top of the bracket on the tie rod side, and over on the spring side, it's going to be below the bracket, sandwiched on both sides by the flat washers. We just need to snug up and then torque our mounting points to the specs that we can find in our installation manual. Okay, with this just snugged up, we're going to head over to the tie rod side, and we'll do the same thing with the stabilizer bolts. This will kind of take all the slop out of the system here, and then we can tighten down the U-bolts. These bolts are 3/4 inch, and the bolts on your U-bolts are going to be 9/16. You can see we can rotate that left and right. So do your best to put it perpendicular so that this bracket's pointing straight ahead as close as possible. We're going to have some adjustments on either side, but just do your best to get this to seat up nice with the tie rod end. Just something to keep in mind as this is coming close to getting tight on your tie rod end. You can see that we have the adjustment here, but keep in mind that your tie rod ends on either side will swivel as well. So just so you know that you're looking, you want these to be, again, you can feel they'll go roll one way and then the other. Just kind of put them in the middle. The more centered you are on all of these locations, the better response you're going to get out of the stabilizer. Now with everything lined up pretty well, we're going to torque these to the specs in our installation manual. That's going to include the U-bolts and then the bolts that are holding the stabilizer as well. As always with U-bolts, try to keep them about the same length and even. The last step for us, before we go take this for a test drive, you'll see the jam nut that I'm rotating right now. We want this to be tight up against this ring nut over here. So I'm going to rotate this. On this side, it's going to be clockwise for me. And I've got a 7/8 wrench or 22 millimeter. That's the movement right here that I was talking about in our tie rod ends. Everything's tight on here, but you're going to have that movement, and it's normal. So let's go over to the other side that's mounted to the frame, and we'll do that too. Okay, so we are ready to go take this for a test drive. If we need to make small adjustments, this is where we're going to be making them, here and over here at these ring nuts and jam nuts. So we're back inside the RV right now, and I do want to show you a really neat feature of this. Is we're going to shoot it down the road. First thing we're going to do is check and make sure that it goes straight. But one of the things you can instantly feel is the steering wheel wants to snap back to center quickly. And that's going to be the gas charge shock down there that's keeping it straight. You can see my marks are off here, so we may have to make some small adjustments, like I said, down at the lock nuts down there. But it's really neat how fast that wheel snaps back to the center like that. And it holds it there. You know, this is something that you probably have to make small adjustments when you go down the road. Like I said, we only have a parking lot to do this in, and really, you want to do this on the roads that you travel. You know, run down the highway and just make your marks on the wheel like this, and see what's going to work best for you. Once it's installed, the adjustments down there are super easy. You're just going to you're going to favor one side or the other when you're locking down those lock nuts down there. That was just some of the features of the Roadmaster exact center steering stabilizer that we installed on our 2019 Fleetwood Bounder.